Hi, I'm Brien Lundin. I'm editor and publisher of Gold Newsletter, and I am here in Toronto at the Metals Investor Forum, where I had the great pleasure of talking with Ian Harris, the president and CEO of Libero Copper. This is a company that I've been recommending in Gold Newsletter for a while and invested in personally because, well, a number of reasons. Exciting exploration projects, more thematically. I'm a huge bull on copper. I don't know where you want to start, Ian. Do we want to start about the projects or the copper market? Because you were making some good points earlier today about what's needed to address the tremendous copper shortfall that's going to hit the market very soon.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting and having me here, Brian. And I think I'm a mining engineer, 25 years of experience in the industry. And when I hear about the supply-demand gap and all the drivers behind it, you hear 4 million ton deficit, 6 million ton, 8 million ton. What? That sounds like a lot, but what does that mean?
Right.
The 10 largest copper mines in the world produce 5 million tons. So that means if anybody's even close to the right, you need to basically duplicate those mines in 10 years. 8 years today. Right. And it's hard to fathom the amount of copper and the amount of new projects that we need that just really aren't there. Here, the cupboards are dry, copper's the new oil, but there's a really a massive amount of discoveries need to be made between now and then. And as running a copper developer, right? It seems today that there's a group of projects. You look at Filo de Sol, or you look at a Solaris Forensa, and then there's everybody else who's in a second pack. And to put it in perspective, you need about 40 Warensas to fill that gap.
So you're going to have really two effects. You're going to have copper prices going to the moon, which are real. I do think that over the next 5 years, we're going to see copper prices essentially double. But all of those projects are going to be developed. They have to be snapped up.
That's right. And so that's when we actually went through a strategy and we said, let's stick to the Americas. Let's find projects that have the potential to be very large scale because we can't develop 100 projects. So it's really going to be the biggest and the best, billion plus tons, near surface, copper porphyry are going to be the major focus and have that size and scale potential. And that's really have the highest chance to become future mines because that's what the world needs. That's what the planet needs. We need these projects, not just to save the planet in terms of energy transition and green energy, but it's really the simulation of the economies and the electrification of the economies moving forward. So it's really needed.
Well, that's a natural transition to where we're going to find these projects. You actually have one or two in the portfolio and some more grassroots exploration projects. But let's talk about what's been making headlines more recently, Mocoa. This is a project that's already very large, already has grades that are similar to some of the big headline-making projects out there, just not quite yet the size. But these other projects, let's talk about some of the comparisons. Tell us about Mocoa, in other words. What do you have there?
So, and as background, I spent 6 years as Senior Vice President and Country Manager of Corriente Resources and took the Mirador project, sold for 690, stayed on board for a year, got it to start a construction, went on to become the first large-scale mining operation in Ecuador's history. And really, it was Mocoa in Colombia, same Jurassic porphyry belt, just on the other side of the border, that attracted me. And I really said, okay, well, let's start putting a strategy together. How do we get all these projects moving forward? Because I've known and seen the potential of the Jurassic belt. And that same area was Fruta del Norte, Mirador Norte, Pananza, San Carlos, and Warrenza in a very condensed space. And everything to the north continues to be unexplored. And then on the other side of Colombia, it continues. So know the potential of these types of projects. And really with our first drill hole at the Mocoa project, it was really to let people know. Because we did a resource estimate based on the existing drilling, most people said that's what it is.
Yeah, so it's been drilled.
It's not.
It's been a lot of drilling before. It was your first hole in years on the project.
That's right. And we also just took the drilling. It wasn't because the drilling finished eliminating the deposit. It was just that's what had been done to date. And so we really wanted to be able to say, how can you demonstrate that the Mocoa project has that size and scale potential? And it was really, we wanted to be able to demonstrate that a very big hole, 1,200 meters, was a 0.58 equivalent copper, one of the best holes in the world, a top 10 hole in the world, where the other projects are 5 of those holes were from Filo de Sol, 3 are from Warrenza, 1 is from Arrow, and to say that's the pack, and this is the quality of the project that we're in. And very similar grades, almost identical grades at the same cutoffs to Warrenza, so it's
Yeah.
okay. All we have to do now to create significant value is continue to grow it, and it's got a huge pathway of continuing to grow.
So this hole, I had originally thought that it was going to confirm some of the earlier drilling and the size of this, which is already a very large deposit with very large resource, great grades. I thought it was confirming, but in fact, it addressed kind of a gap in the previous drilling. So it is accretive, isn't it?
That's right, because it was all drilled from a ridge line. So as these holes get deeper and deeper,
Yeah.
there becomes a big gap between the drill holes. And we had the theory, it's a 0.45 average grade in the resource, but we think that it's because it's not recognizing for the distance between the holes. And we really wanted to fill in what we were calling a blank zone, that the entire hole was 0.58, the entire hole from top to bottom, clearly demonstrates, which is higher grade than the resource, demonstrates that there's a big capacity to increase the resource grade, the overall resource grade. So lots we were trying to accomplish with a single hole. It's also the deepest hole that's ever been put into the project.
And also, I'm very encouraged by the geophysics and other exploration you've done around the deposit. So you've seen the potential for some really significant increases, aren't you?
Yeah, my biggest challenge right now is to say the resource is only the starting point, because when most companies do a resource, it's kind of when they're kind of trying to put the wrap around a project and moving towards a PEA.
Yeah.
This was very initial. It was because there was an acquisition, but the project still has lots of legs to grow, and the geophysics is demonstrating there's clear paths to get over 1 billion tons.
And the resource right now is about 1/3 the size of Warrenza, right?
Correct.
And let's compare market caps between the Solaris and.
So, and on a per pound in the ground basis,
Yeah.
Solaris is worth 15 times more.
Right.
And from a pure market cap point of view, it's 40 times, which is a great place to be, right? Because I could say, as I demonstrate this project is moving forward, as a company, we continue to march it forward, we can create a significant amount of value. It's not we're undervalued. We can create value because there's a clear path on how to get there.
And it's not that anything is overvalued, because what we're looking at again is a copper supply-demand dynamic going into place where copper is facing was already in a supply constraint situation, but it's also facing the steepest demand curve, not only in the history of copper, but likely in the history of any metal or commodity.
Yeah. The last peak of copper was China-driven.
Yes.
It's now world-driven.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all the world economies saving the planet, but it's also that transition to clean energy is actually pushing the economies forward, because as we do that transition, it's creating more jobs, more electricity, higher technology requires more energy, and it's really what's required to make sure that economies continue to move forward.
And we talked about Mocoa in the brief time we have left. Let's talk about the fact that you really are a pipeline of copper development projects. You have a grassroots exploration project at Big Red that's going to get some action pretty soon, right? Yeah,
we're actually mobilizing. It's in the Golden Triangle. We did our initial campaign with 5,000 meters last year. We're seeing mineralization over a very large area, but we're kind of going through some dike swarms and saying, ooh, where's this mineralization coming from? So we flew geophysics at the end of the year and have identified a very large 3 kilometer by 2 kilometer potassic anomaly directly to the east, which was like, it's like a mystery movie. So we're going to be testing that anomaly this year and are extremely excited based on that interpretation of the geophysics from last year.
By testing, we mean drilling.
Drilling.
Good. And then we have Esperanza, which is another potentially world-class, I would argue world-class already, copper resource in Argentina.
Yeah, and really it's been working on a permitting, getting the project restarted. There was lots of focus, and we were told to our face, Jose Maria is the tension right now. You're next. Jose Maria is moving forward. I've seen and been to and sat down with the minister of San Juan, and all indications, okay, guys, let's get this project moving forward. We're following that path, and we believe by the end of the year, we'll definitely have the permit in place. There's definitely was the will to move it forward.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that project as a shareholder in Libero and looking forward to getting that coming up. So a lot of catalysts, short and long term. I think one of the most exciting copper development stories out there, if not the most exciting, because you have potentially world-class resources already defined with very clear expansion potential. Ian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.